So welcome everyone again. I'm so excited that today again for a second part of my interview with Jussi Saloranta, we are going to talk about the subjects that are even more original than the industrial dimension. So we're going to talk about the network marketing strategy, we're going to talk about the crypto dimension, we're going to talk about the regulation, about plastic neutrality, about plastic recycling that is really in the process of getting off the ground, just like it took more than 20 years for carbon. Well, we are really at the beginning of a new revolution for the plastic industry and the plastic recycling industry. So we're going to talk about all of that. And thank you, Jay, for having me again today at this beautiful headquarters of yours in Bangkok. My first question to you is, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a busy end of the year. We're filming this day before Christmas. So there's a lot happening, a lot on my plate, but it's great to see you, and I'm very happy to do the second part of this interview.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time from your busy schedule. Tomorrow I'm flying to Bali to go spend Christmas with my brother and partner, Thomas, thanks to whom I discovered this business, because this business is based on network marketing.
Yes.
And this is so powerful. Yet, when you first started, I believe that the experts in the petrochemical plastic waste recycling industry totally did not advise actually that you go with this model. They advised you not to, yet you did it. Why?
Well, as you said, yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, when we started the company Corsair, and we've covered some of these topics on the first part of the interview, we started our operations 100% as an industrial operation. And it was after we already got operational, got our first factory up and running, started producing oil from plastic waste. Only after that, the opportunity was then presented for us to take over an already existing operational but nearly bankrupted network marketing company called Amplivo. And we had originally no plan, no intention of going that direction. But once the opportunity was presented, and a long story short, the company was at a situation where its previous ownership and management had already abandoned the company. And if I was not there to take over this business, the management would have pulled the plug, and everything that was there at that time, including the work that had been brought in by thousands and thousands of people, would have been lost in a blink of an eye. So after serious consideration of what we could do with this company and how we could implement it into our existing operations, we then finally came to a decision that we will be including Amplivo into the Corsair Group. And we looked at the company, we looked at the people, the organization that was there, and eventually came to a conclusion that if these people would have the right product, the right service, the right mission, we could do amazing things together with this global community. And that's basically what we set out to do. We structured and restructured the entire business, the entire company, business model, everything into what it is today. And it's been an amazing, successful ride since March 2021, when the Amplivo Network Marketing Company was included into Corsair Group. Now, as you said, everybody in the petrochemical oil and gas industry advised me not to even consider the option of bringing in a direct sales network marketing element into our business. I was highly advised against doing any such thing. But we saw the opportunity, and we saw the possibility of having a group of like-minded people working together in this shared mission of cleaning our planet from plastic pollution and what it could actually generate. And we embarked on that journey, and it definitely turned out to be the very right decision. Now, with all of the benefits and all the growth and all the achievements and success that we have had the pleasure and the opportunity to enjoy, every one of those same people are now looking back and looking at what we've done and our situation where we are by far, without a shadow of a doubt, we are the fastest growing company in the industry of plastic waste chemical recycling in the world. Now they're looking at our operations and saying, yeah, well, that's a little bit unorthodox, but we see what you're doing there. And it is because of the community, it's because of the network that we have been able to do the things that we've done. We've been able to expand and grow into the locations where we are now operational or becoming operational. And obviously, all the contacts that we've made over the years that has led us where we are today is, you could say, primarily coming from the network. So again, power of the people, power of the community, power of the mission. I don't think there's anything stronger than that.
It is definitely a people-powered business, because when we see how the growth of this company is unlike any other in the field, whether it's in the pyrolysis, chemical recycling of plastic, or in the plastic credits, carbon, because that was my field, as you know, like for more than about 18 years ago. And you know something about that. We're going to talk again about regulation, but also in the plastic credits, new industry, what Corsair is doing is by far the most disruptive for those industries, and that's why it's growing fast, and that's definitely thanks to the power of the network. Corsair, as you say it so well, is bringing together industrial development, economy, of course, economic business, with environmentalism, as you call it, and philanthropy.
Correct.
And we can do that thanks to the heart-centered power of people. Because we realize that we have a huge problem at hand, which is plastic pollution, and the solutions that were used until then did not really work, because if it worked, then we would not have a problem.
Exactly.
And the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity, as you say it so
Yes.
well. So why now someone who would discover this business, who would be afraid, oh, it's MLM, oh, there is crypto, maybe it's a scam, maybe they're gonna run away with the money someday. Mm-hmm. Why would people take the risk of not being part of this incredible journey that we're starting? Why would they take the risk to say, oh no, it's too dangerous? What would be in your mind the reasons why some people would say, no, I won't stay away from this, when actually everybody should be part of the solution?
Well, I try to always think about things in a way that let's focus on doing what works. If you want to travel from point A to point B, you want to use the best, most reliable, most effective, and fastest vehicle to get there, right? So it's a combination of those. You want the safest, you want the efficient, you want the fast, reliability is probably the word that I'm looking for. Now, when we look at our business model and understanding where we came from when we started to do this together, we looked at different opportunities of technologies that we could use, first of all, to document the CSR plastic credit operations. So let's start from that. When we go back to around year 2020, that's the time when you start to see the first mentions of plastic credit and these operations being sort of discussed online. And the concept of plastic credit is being developed and discussed. In 2021, when we entered the scene, and I want to highlight we're in no way we are the first or the only plastic credit out there. When we started to look at this space, again, while already operating a successful plastic waste recycling center, we were generally interested of, okay, how do we as a recycler could be part of this plastic credit scene that is now evolving, all right? And we looked at some of the other credit platforms, companies that are doing very much the same thing that Corsair is doing, and we looked at how they operate. First of all, onboarding into those platforms as a recycler is expensive and extremely difficult because no other plastic credit operator or platform today is actually themselves doing any recycling. Nobody else. Also, when we looked at how they manage their data, even still today, most of that data is held on private computers, Excel files, whatever, with no public transparency whatsoever. So us having our background in IT and in fintech and going back to the early years of Bitcoin, for myself and Mr. Wayne Dobson, who is our Chief Information Officer and the architect of the CSR program, it was for us 100% clear that we needed to use blockchain. That blockchain was the only way how this kind of data should be stored and how it could be publicly documented, providing transparency and accountability. It was absolutely clear. We also were able to see the challenges that the carbon credit market had since the late 90s, where there was a lot of, and still today is a lot of issues with so-called double counting, where you can't verify that there will never be a situation where, for example, two end users could be using the same credit. With blockchain, you are immediately eliminating any such opportunity because of how the data is being stored and moved. So for us, that was a clear sky. We got to go with blockchain. Now, for us, and in our eyes, and even still today, we don't really consider CSR plastic credits to be among 99.9% of all the other so-called crypto or digital asset projects that are out there. We're very different. Our basic principle is to use the best available technologies that are proven to work. Basic principle with everything that we do. So using blockchain was just obvious because of the benefits that it produces. In the same way, when we started looking at the technologies at our factories to use for the actual physical recycling of the plastic waste, we went around and we looked at every different supplier and producer of pyrolysis technologies. And eventually we chose two companies that were able to prove and verify and showcase for us that their technology actually does and did what it was supposed to do. So we didn't want to play around with something that maybe is going to work in the future or this could be a great thing. Great. We support the development, we support the innovation a lot, and one day if there's a better technology that we could use, for example, at our factories, let's imagine that tomorrow somebody invents a new machine that's more efficient and better on converting plastic waste into oil. That's great. We would be interested of buying those machines. We ourselves are not in the machinery manufacturing business, nor do we want to be. Instead, we want to use the best available technologies built by anybody around the world, and then we are the developer and the operator of those facilities. As an example, for the lack of better example, Starbucks, they don't make their own coffee machines. Why would they? Right? They use the best available machines that fit their business model. Same for us. So when it comes to the technology of the factories, the same principle was implied there by using technology that was proven to work. And number two, choosing to use the blockchain for the CSR plastic credits was done for the exact same reason, because it was proven to work, and we obviously saw that this is going to be the future, how all the data in these type of elements are going to be stored. I believe that stock markets and commodity markets and everything is going to move to the blockchain eventually. And we knew that we need to be there. And we are today still one of the very few plastic credit operators that are on a public blockchain. Now, coming to the network marketing part. If you, as a business owner, want to be able to tell your story and spread the word around the world effectively, efficiently, fast, and also very cost effectively, there is not a single other better option than direct sales and network marketing to do that. Period. Just a fact. With all this AI things happening right now, it has been projected that the content that we are, for example, consuming on social media is going to grow and expand and multiply. Somebody told me some numbers like more than 1,000 times in the next couple of years. Basically meaning that already now when you scroll your social media, you see a lot of footage which is clearly AI created. And we as consumers and we as humans are going to be bombarded by more and more and more AI created content. And when you're in the middle of all of these mixed messages that are being channeled to you, which is only and only going to increase in the future, there is a traditional form of communication that's going to cut through all that noise and become more efficient and more effective than any of those online marketing methods will ever combine. And that is the personal connection. If you think about yourself in the middle of all this noise that's coming around you, all these messages that we are subject to, when your friend comes to you and say, hey, I watched a great movie last night, or I went to a great restaurant, or I started using a great hand lotion, or I participated in an amazing project on a mission to clean our planet from plastic pollution, with the opportunity to even make money while doing so from my home. Those are the messages that will be in the future so much more powerful than whatever the AI created content, text or images are going to be able to generate. And people are becoming more and more and more aware that I can't rely on this marketing data anymore. But instead, I rely on my friend. And that is, I believe, also one of the reasons why direct sales and network marketing is projected to grow in the future. And I think in a way, like we're coming back to where we started. I mentioned this earlier about the customer service of the airlines. We went from every airline having a customer service agent, somebody on behind the phone line, you could call them. We went into all digitalized system. Then we went into answering machines and whatever automated things. Then we went to chat bots and everything else. And now today, the premium airlines in the world already as a VIP special service, they're using now the words real human connection. You don't have to talk to an agent, you can talk to a real human being. Think about it. We're coming around the block back into where we were, where the human connection is becoming a premium service. And rightfully so. And therefore, when we as a company, coming back to what I was saying earlier, when we looked at the technologies to be used at our factories, when we looked at the technology to be used for the CSR plastic credit program, when we used the technology and the method to distribute our message, take our message and our word around the planet, it was clear. It was these machines to be used in the pyrolysis, it was the blockchain to be used for the CSR plastic credits, and it was network marketing to be used in spreading our word. And the result speaks for themselves. We are the leading plastic credit platform in the world. We are the fastest growing plastic waste chemical recycling company in the world. And it's only a matter of time when we will become the largest network marketing company in the world, period.
Yeah, Corsair is redefining many industries, actually, creating a new industry, plastic credit standards, I would say, for the years to come. It is also redefining what it is to be a plastic recycler because of the high quality of the pyrolysis oil that now matches the regulations currently already in place in Europe. It's also redefining what it is to do network marketing. So Corsair is basically disrupting an established status quo where we were doing things in a certain way by combining different industries and executing the strategy with such a high level of excellence that basically no other company who is broken into a certain industry and set into it can keep up with. This is the strength of the vision behind Corsair. This being said, there are still people who are going to doubt. There are still people who are going to not believe. I remember in my early months with Corsair, I had this very visionary, very influent CEO of his own company who wanted to offset the plastic waste footprint of his firm, but he wasn't sure that the facilities were running. So we told him, no problem, you can come and visit, it's possible. And in the end, he didn't do it. And right now, I'm sure that he doesn't think about it anymore, and I did not get back to him. And I know that many people are missing out on this opportunity because they do not have the vision. They just cannot believe that this is possible. Yet you're doing it, we're doing it every single day. And until this becomes actually a real business model that other companies can copy and say, oh, this is the business model. It's not like something that is a patchwork of different industries. No, it is a real business model. We're financing our industrial activity thanks to people, thanks to crowdfunding. That's extremely powerful, no matter which industry, which field we're in. Instead of going to venture capitalists, instead of going to banks, instead of going to whatever kind of common thing, which would have been certainly easier for you guys right from the onset, but would not have given this huge potential. This is, for me, a textbook case of a new way to do business. So the people who hold off, who are like, no, this is too complicated for me to understand, that's a real pity. For me, it feels like they're missing out on, honestly, the best business opportunity and the best business period in the world, because we're really dealing with something meaningful and useful. It's not just competing about, oh, I want to launch a new business and I need to find a product and I need to find customers. No, the customers are here. The need is here. The service is here. Everything is here. Plus, you mentioned it, it's very important to realize this. There is no greenwashing with what we do because there is no double counting. Maybe you can specify what double counting is for carbon. Maybe tell us a bit more about that. And there is no double counting, there is no greenwashing, and there is a regulation which is gonna, with time, push forward what we're doing to take it to the next level. And also want you to tell us more about how you're making sure for all the crypto people that our asset not only is not a cryptocurrency, it's not a regular crypto asset, it's a real world asset that's backed by real industrial operations and by a buyback program from Corsair, where Corsair has committed to reinjecting 10% of its revenue, all revenue included, into the buyback of plastic credits on the open markets at whatever price it is. So all of these are real trust based triggers for people to realize that what we're doing here is extremely relevant and noticeable. So they'd rather notice it because they might be passing next to the biggest opportunity of our generation.
Well, that's a great point to make. So first of all, transparency is the most important thing. What we have done with every step along the way is to create more and more transparency for all of our operations. This is, for example, the reason why we partnered up with a company from the Netherlands called Control Union, which is a company more than 100-year-old, operating all over the planet. They have tens and tens of offices, and they are one of the leading industrial certification and auditing firms in the world. So together with Control Union, we created the so-called Corsair Plastic Waste Removal Standard. This is a standard where basically now a third-party auditor comes and does an audit for the work that is being performed by Corsair or one of our contributing partners. And then based on that audit report, with their signatures and stamps and everything in it, only after that will Corsair then release and issue the matching amount, the equivalent amount of plastic credits for the work that was completed, documented, and audited by a third party. So this is the first stage when it comes to work that is done before any of these credits get issued and released into the circulation. Now, when we compare already this stage into how most of the crypto projects or digital asset projects work, we are already differentiating us from 99.9%, okay? Because in other words, say it more simply, behind every single CSR plastic credit, there is actual physical work that went in, that was done to remove plastic waste from the environment and then have it recycled. I'm going to break that down a little bit, because when you look at different plastic credits, that's not always the case. So let me explain you a few differences, and then we'll continue on this chapter. Now, when we looked at in 2020, 2021, we looked at what was generally happening with the plastic credit market. We found out that there were different types of credits that were issued. There were credits that were purely involving collection of plastic, and then there were credits that were involving recycling. Still today, a very, very large part of all the plastic credit operators and their plastic credits are issued without no verification that the plastic ever got recycled. Actually, they very openly say that maybe 25% of our plastic credits are resulting from actual recycling. Mostly, the plastic credits, except for CSR, are still today created as a result of burning the plastic.
Wow.
Meaning that plastic is being collected from the environment. Great, we all applaud for that. But instead of then recycling the plastic, it goes into incinerators, cement factories where it gets burned, and now we're polluting the air we all breathe. So ultimately, the situation is the following. When you look at how many of these other plastic credit operators work, they issue credits when plastic is collected, for example, from the ocean and taken to the landfill. Unfortunately, many of them consider this as a cleanup process for plastic from the environment. Well, if that would be the case, and this is now coming from an actual recycling operator, not just a consultant who is selling their service to work with someone to issue plastic credits with. But if that would be the situation, then these 2,000 landfills that you see here in Thailand alone, which are overwhelming with mountains and mountains of plastic waste, according to them, wouldn't be a problem. You see the issue there?
Of course. Yeah.
So moving the plastic from one place to another is great.
It's not enough.
But it's not a solution. Now, I'm going to mention on this one, I don't mean to speak negatively from any operator out there, but I think it's good to spread the awareness. Let's say operations like ocean cleanup. They're out there in the oceans, they're collecting this plastic waste from the oceans, which is being applauded and regarded and highly appreciated, but then what? If that plastic that is collected from the ocean goes back to the landfill without being recycled and permanently removed from the environment of becoming and being waste, you're not solving anything. You are moving the problem from place A to place B, and you're spending all this energy, all this cost, all this creating all this pollution by doing that logistical work without actually solving the problem. Now, I'd actually like to send out my message to Ocean Cleanup, because we've actually tried to talk to them on a number of occasions. And so far, we haven't received any proper reply from them, and I wonder why. But there is a chance there that a lot of their plastic that they collect from the oceans end up just going back to the landfills. And if that is the case, then unfortunately, it's not a solution. We would like to collaborate with the likes of Ocean Cleanup and them to be that missing link, which we believe that we are, because we could take from other operators, other collectors, like we're doing already. We're working together with fishermen that are providing plastic from the ocean for us. We're working with a number of other plastic recycling companies from Europe, here in Asia, in India, companies that are doing either mechanical or chemical recycling. We're looking to collaborate with everybody. We want to be the Airbnb of plastic recycling, where any recycler or any collector that is out there collecting plastic from the environment can now participate and receive additional financial incentives to help them to do more of what they're doing. But every single CSR plastic credit has to end up into recycling. Not to burning, not going back to the landfill. It must be recycled. And for that, CSR plastic credit is the only plastic credit in the market today that's actually 100% based on recycling, either mechanical recycling or chemical recycling. But either way, the plastic gets recycled. Now, for someone to look at this industry, look at us as a company, you can obviously ask questions. Why did you choose to go this way? Well, like I already explained, because it works. Now, some people have told me, why didn't you go to the bank and ask for the money? My answer is, well, we did. And unfortunately, the banks 5 years ago had no idea what we were doing. We would be knocking on doors, we would be knocking on banks and go and talk to them and explain what we're doing. And they would simply say, well, we like what you guys are doing, but we don't have a folder for that. Like, where's the plastic waste chemical recycling folder? We don't. If you guys would be building a housing project, we could finance you up to 75-80% of your cost. But we don't know this business. We've never seen anybody do this. So the advice or the question, why didn't you go to the bank, is kind of a delusional. Like, it doesn't, it's not possible. Well, that was the situation 5 years ago. And I'm actually very happy to say that even today, now at the end of 2025, Corsair still today does not owe even $1 to any bank or financial institution anywhere in the world. So we have no institutional debt, none whatsoever.
Beautiful.
Okay? Now, this has been done because we were able to generate additional revenue and additional business models. And only because of that. When I look at other plastic waste recycling companies, especially on the field of the chemical recycling, most of those companies, by the time when they become operational and they actually start producing some oil, most of those companies are at that moment already majority sold, majority owned by investment firms or other banks or investors. Okay, and I'm going to talk about the banks more. Now, in our case, the original founders of the company still today own 100% of the international holding of Corsair Group. Only very recently, we're talking about 2 weeks ago, we basically opened the opportunity for private investors to now actually take part into our operations. But this is done in a controlled, small way, and only now after being operational for 5 years. So when I compare our operations to other operations in the industry, we're very, very different in many, many ways. Number one is that we focus on transparency. Number two, we use methods that work and then that can actually deliver the results that we want. Number three, we're also innovative enough to be able to say, hey, we gotta come up with something else. We can't get the money from the bank. We, as a smaller company, going in and talking to these financial institutions, as I said, was an impossible task. But not anymore. Now, with the new regulations coming into play, the financial institutions are also becoming now required to have as a certain amount of green projects in their portfolios. For example, here in Asia, banks are now under the so-called ESG regulations, environmental sustainability governance regulations, are obligated to finance green and environmentally important projects. And I'm extremely happy to say that after 5 years of doing this, kind of already giving up on these banks, now they're calling us. And now they're offering their funding to us. So moving into the next year, 2026, 27 and forward, I definitely see that these opportunities will now be available for us. But only after we have already built the business, we've already built the foundation, we've already proved that we know what we're doing, we've already been able to generate customer relationships with some of the largest oil and gas and petrochemical companies in the world, and we're already the only plastic waste chemical recycling company in the world that's operating in 2 continents. And to answer the question that you asked me before, what would I say for someone that looked into our operations before, but then decided that maybe it wasn't the right time? Well, I got good news for him. The best part is that even after all of these achievements, everything that we put together over the last 5 years, we're just getting started. This is only the very, very beginning of our story. And if you haven't engaged already, then today is a great day to do so.
Today is definitely the best day to get started on the best business in the world, and it's only going to get better. We had some discussions which I would love for us to share more. I know we don't have much time, so I will definitely let you conclude on the upcoming regulations at the global level and how now it's possible for a business model like Corsair to become possible because of the regulations in Europe with the so-called plastic tax. You can certainly tell us more about why we call it that way and why it's not really a tax, but companies get to basically be incentivized to purchase pyrolysis oil so that they can produce new plastic. That includes recycled plastic, so pyrolysis oil more specifically, and how this is only the beginning in terms of what we call EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, and how the industrial activity of Corsair on one side and the plastic credits activity on the other side are directly benefiting from this regulation that started in Europe and now is bound to spread all over the world thanks to the upcoming plastic treaty that's being discussed. It takes time, just like it took time to reach the Paris Agreement for carbon credits, carbon tax, carbon offsetting, carbon neutrality. All of that took decades in the making. Right now with plastic, we're moving fast, and we most importantly have a standard that now Corsair has basically defined and is distributing. We're not waiting for governments and companies to move. We're actually doing it thanks to people, thanks to individuals, and it really is setting a standard for the world. Corsair is already recognized by a branch of the United Nations as being a sustainable supplier. So the next logical step would be that our operations are also recognized, including the plastic credits, as a potential standard, because it really sets a standard that 100 grams of recycled plastic, whether it's mechanical or chemical, amounts to 1 token, which is totally transparently distributed. Anyone can go check it. Here is the transaction. Here is the hash. Here is the whole block on the blockchain of the smart contract. Anyone can check it, so no risk of double counting, no greenwashing. Everything is so transparent, and we know that it's only the beginning because the regulation right now of EPR is already becoming stronger and stronger in the Philippines, for example, reason for which Corsair has upgraded its token from the original CSR to the CSR 25, which now takes into account the place and date of the recycling to match the regulation there. And we know that many other countries, maybe before the United Nations decide on a global plastic treaty, are going to follow through with these EPR regulations because the need is urgent. So yeah, let us understand more specifically the current regulation in Europe, and your vision for the next 12 to 24 months, let's say, about the potential development of the regulation globally, or maybe in certain countries if you are more familiar with those coming regulations in those countries.
So regulations are definitely coming. And obviously European Union has been very much in the forefront on developing these different regulations to solve the plastic waste crisis. Following the European Union, which I think started really taking the first steps already several years ago, now there has been a coalition or a committee in the United Nations that has been formed, where already 175 different countries have now joined in to contribute and together to solve this plastic waste problem. Now, let's go back a little bit just to explain how did we come where we are today and what the regulations need to be like in order for us to solve the problem that we're facing with. Basically, for the last 30 years, going back to in the 80s or 90s or so, most of the plastic garbage from the European Union countries, United States, Canada, Japan, other places, were sent over to China. And when the Chinese government blocked these imports, suddenly the plastic was now stuck at its origin. For example, from Europe, when companies were no longer able to send shipping containers full of baled plastic into China, they started to look for alternative routes, sending them into the Philippines, to Indonesia, to Thailand, Vietnam, and other mostly Asian countries. Now, little by little, the regulations have become more and more tighter, reaching a point where, as of today, you are no longer able to export this plastic garbage outside of European Union. Now, in order for us to make plastic circular, there needs to be a number of steps in place, and like in many cases, unless there is legal force and regulation behind that, it's not going to take place. So the decision makers have understood that if we want to create this circularity on plastics, to reach a situation like we have today with glass and metal and paper, there needs to be a participation and regulation from all of these stakeholders that are part of this cycle. Number one, there needs to be an incentive for someone to go out and collect plastic from the environment. That's the point number one. Because if you think about how would you solve the plastic waste crisis fastest anywhere in the world? Well, put a monetary value on it. If that piece of plastic, that plastic bag or whatever bottle or a potato chip bag or whatever it would be, if that piece of plastic had a monetary value that you could easily turn into cash, I guarantee you we wouldn't have this plastic waste problem anymore. It's that simple. But it's only the first step. Companies or people going out and collecting this plastic has to then have a place to put it. Like we spoke earlier, collecting it from the ocean, putting it in a landfill, that's not a solution. So what's the step two? The step two is going to then have recycling companies like Corsair to become operational and expanding their operations and to be able to manage this collected plastic. Once we've done our part, where does the recycled product now go? In our case, we convert the plastic waste into pyrolysis oil. Where does that go? Well, that has to now go into the channels where this oil can now be used to make those plastic products that we all use in our daily lives. And eventually from there, it will be used to create the packaging for the brands that we buy. So this is how this cycle needs to operate. So let's look at it now. What are the solutions there and what are the regulations that have already been implemented that are coming? Number one, when we look at the collection, the easiest, most effective, most transparent, and already proven method of doing that is to have a global rollout of a plastic credit which follows on the footsteps of the carbon credits. This is not rocket science. This is not even reinventing the wheel. The process is already very much in use. And as you rightfully said, it started with carbon exactly the same way as a voluntary method, which eventually then has become mandatory. Now, 175 countries, as part of this United Nations community and committee, have now decided already that these elements will need to be in place. Exactly in which way is still being defined and it's being still polished and worked out. But the use of the plastic credit is the single most effective, simple, and easiest way to implement this. That's it. Companies that pollute will have to pay for the companies that clean. And when we do this part, now there will be an incentive for people and companies to go and collect this plastic from the environment. But that's only one part of the solution. Companies like Corsair, who is also doing the collection, we are a very rare operator in that sense, because we actually collect plastic ourselves also from the environment, like from the landfill that we operate and have operated here in Thailand for more than 5 years already. But now when we turn the plastic into this pyrolysis oil product, where does that go? Well, the oil that we make could be used to create fuels, which again, still today, is actually where most of the pyrolysis oil created in the world is today being sold to. The oil made from plastic waste is typically used in most cases to create fuels like gasoline, diesel, and kerosene, which our oil would obviously is great for as well. But in my opinion, in a very correct way, both European Union and United Nations are very clear that if the pyrolysis oil made from plastic waste is now sold to be used as fuel, it is not considered recycling. It's considered burning.
Incineration.
Only and only in the case where the plastic waste is converted into pyrolysis oil, and that oil, like in the case of Corsair, gets now distributed for the petrochemical companies to be used in the creation of new plastics, only and only in that case can it be officially considered recycling. Corsair is one of the very few companies in the world that is actually doing this and who is also certified under the highest quality certification system, the ISCC, now already for, I believe, 4 years in a row. We were one of the first companies in Asia to receive that certification, and now we have it both in Europe and in Asia. All of our operations are certified and audited by the ISCC. Now, when we as a company now create this oil, thinking about this full circular solution that has to be sorted from all levels, and we're going quite detailed here, but I think it's good. Now, in order for that to happen, there needs to be a guaranteed demand for this pyrolysis oil. There needs to be a guaranteed demand for the plastic waste collected, generating income, and there needs to be a guaranteed demand for the oil product. Therefore, in 2021, the European Union introduced a new regulation where the plastic manufacturing companies that are either manufacturing plastics in Europe or they're importing plastics into Europe are now becoming legally obligated to start using at least 30% recycled plastic raw material in the production of new plastic products. If a company doesn't meet these requirements, that company is obligated to pay the European Union as much as 800 euros per ton as a penalty tax for not meeting that requirement. This requirement was introduced in the year 2021 and it became effective just about a year ago in January 1st, 2025. This means that there is now, from the regulatory point already, a massive demand for recycled plastic raw material. Obviously, this means all recycled plastic, including our operations in the chemical recycling industry, but also including the mechanical recycling industry. Any plastic recycling is now much and much needed. And the largest buyers, and at least the ones with the largest appetite and desire, are the petrochemical companies that are using the oil coming from Corsair as a raw material for creating new plastic products, which are no longer made 100% from virgin oil coming from the ground, but instead now have at least that 30% recycled content in them. These new regulations, when we look at purely from the point of view of the pyrolysis oil market, has now created a demand for as much as 100 billion liters of ISCC certified pyrolysis oil, which meets the extremely tight quality requirements of the petrochemical industry. And when I say and I talk about those two elements, it's very important to highlight them. If the company is making pyrolysis oil, but they don't meet the criteria or pass the auditing from ISCC, the petrochemical companies cannot touch their product. That's point number one. Point number two is that the quality of that pyrolysis oil has to be extremely, extremely high. Again, Corsair is one of the only companies in the world that is able to achieve those extremely tight requirements. And we have been doing that successfully already since the year 2023. Now, because of the demand, because of the regulations, we are almost guaranteed to receive a very fair and good market price for the oil that we produce. Now that's now sorting and solving the second step. The collectors are getting paid, now the recyclers are getting paid. So where does this one then continue? Well, now we move into, as you mentioned earlier, the EPR, the Extended Producer Responsibility. What does that mean? Now it means that the brands that are actually using the plastic as a part of the packaging that they are distributing their products with, they need to participate as well. It's not only the petrochemical companies, it's also the actual businesses that are using plastic in their operations. We've seen examples, like for example in the Philippines, which decided that their plastic waste problem is one of the worst in the world, and they didn't want to wait for a global regulation to kick in. They decided to go ahead and start using their own, which is very much aligned with what the global regulations drafted in the United Nations are going to be like. Okay? Now, in the Philippines, what happens there is that already since last year, 2024, every company that has, let's say, not a small mom and dad little shop, but any kind of business that has assets worth approximately $2 million is now legally obligated to report for the government how much plastic waste they generated within that operating year. And last year, these companies were now legally obligated to go out and eliminate, recover from the environment 40% of all of that plastic waste. They had to work with other recyclers, or in this case, not with other recyclers, but recyclers. Mechanical recyclers or chemical recyclers, collectors, they had to do that. And there was a government-established channels where companies could contact and then have them connected or have those funds allocated and distributed into these collectors and recyclers. Now, a company that doesn't report their plastic waste footprint or doesn't participate will face fines or can even lose their business license as a result of this. This year, 2025, the 40% requirement was now lifted to 50%, and they will eventually continue to increase it by 10% a year until 80%. This is a great example. And we've seen already in the Philippines, big companies, all the major operators, all the big beverage companies, all the big snack suppliers, all of these big brands that we all are very familiar with, all of them participated. And They're going to continue to do it every year. So this is an example of actual action taken by the government already. Now we've seen other countries starting to do the same. Indonesia, South Africa, many other countries are already engaging on this. And it is only a matter of time when this will be done in every single country around the world. My expectation is that within the next 12 to 24 months, we are going to see the global rollout in every developed country in the world, where companies are now becoming legally obligated to take responsibility of their plastic waste footprint. Right now, it's voluntary, but it's going to become mandatory by law. And from the voluntary point of view, there are great benefits for a company to actually become plastic neutral. Because as we've seen from a number of studies, when you have two identical products, let's say a bottle of water, you go to a store. Now let me ask you this personally. You go to a shop here in Thailand, to a 7-Eleven around the corner, and you want to buy a bottle of water. Now you see two brands over there. And if you would know that this company has done something good for the environment, and this company haven't, and the price is almost the same, the taste is almost the same, which one would you pick?
Of course, I would go for the one that is part of the solution.
Exactly.
Of course.
80% of the people that have participated in these surveys says the exact same thing. So if you are now a business owner listening to this, think about it. Think about the competitive edge, that unique selling point, that unique edge that you and your company, your brand and your product could have with all of your competitors. If it's been proven that 8 out of 10 would choose that product, your product.
You want to be the first?
I mean, why are we even talking about it?
Of course.
It is, and I keep telling this to companies that are now joining us on this one, these are probably the best marketing dollars that you could ever consider of spending. And when you think about the cost that it's possible to do this, especially by using the CSR plastic credits, it's going to be a small fraction of your marketing budget. And you want it or not, everybody is going to be using it soon. Everybody. There is not another option. The only way, now I'm coming back and summarizing this circle, the only way for us to solve the plastic waste crisis is to put monetary value on the plastic waste. Who's going to pay that? It's going to be paid by the companies that actually create this pollution, the brands and the producers. Who is going to be paid are the ones who actually collect it from the environment. Number two, the recyclers that are doing that. And who is going to pay are the producers and the distributors of the plastic. That's how it works. In our case, Corsair is doing both collection and recycling. But on top of that, what we've created through the CSR plastic credit ecosystem is what I use as a lack of better example, a term of the Airbnb of plastic recycling. Because as a recycler, when we wanted to engage with plastic credits, it was very complicated to do so and very costly. Because most of these plastic credit programs, all they do is they charge you consulting and management fees. They are brokers, they're like agents. They don't do themselves any physical operations, none whatsoever. Okay? They charge a recycler money upfront to become part of their program. A very complicated process and costly. What we've done is we've built the platform where we are inviting everybody from around the world to participate. If you are a collector of plastic waste, if you are a recycler of plastic waste, and you can show to our independent auditors from Control Union that we will send to audit your operations, if you can show for us that you are actually removing plastic from the environment and it ends up being now recycled, either by you or somebody else in the value chain, we would like to speak to you. We would like to work together with you, bring you involved in creating these CSR plastic credits. We will pay for the auditing. We will pay all associated costs. There's no onboarding fees in our platform for any recycler or collector anywhere in the world. And as a result of that, any recycler can now begin to receive these financial extra benefits from the work that they're doing in order for them to expand and do more of that valuable, hugely needed work that they're doing. That's why our target in the coming years is to bring at least 1,000 recyclers around the world from different parts of the planet who participate in the CSR plastic credit creation. Now let's come back to the tokenization of this and why we are so different than 99.9% of all the other digital assets out there. Number one, you already heard it. Behind every single credit, there's actual physical work included. Work that is audited by a third-party independent auditor, one of the largest industrial auditing and certification companies in the world. Now, on top of that, making us very, very different from any other so-called crypto project is that in our case, the end user will actually remove permanently the credit from circulation. You could use the word destroy the credit or burn the credit. We don't like to use those terms because they're not really necessarily 100% accurate, but you understand what it means. When a company, like now the company that made your bottle of water that you choose over anything else on the shelf in the 7-Eleven store, when that company decided that they wanted to offset their plastic waste footprint, they had to go to the market or to any individual. They had to go to someone who had those credits already in their possession, and they, mostly from the open exchanges, they would then buy those credits, and then by using our retirement process, they would then send those credits from their digital wallet into a specific retirement address, which is a wallet on the blockchain with no withdrawal function. It means that anything that goes in there will always permanently stay there. There's no way, there's no function. Nobody has the keys, not even the creator of that wallet has any way of removing them or returning them back into circulation. They're gone forever. They're not burned. They are in the retirement wallet purposely for the clear documentation of who actually sent them there. Now, the end user, in this case the company that made your bottle of water or distributed that for you, would now buy these credits and then retire them. And by doing so, they would now prove on the blockchain, without a shadow of a doubt, that they and they alone are the end user and eventually the party or the company, the entity that made it possible for this plastic waste to be removed from the environment. Because of the blockchain and because of this retirement process, there can never be a situation where there would be two end users. The blockchain is the key and the solution of avoiding this so-called double counting issue that we've seen with carbon credits when they are managed in somebody's Excel file on their personal computer. With blockchain, we remove that completely, and it's all documented on a public database, real time, accessible for everybody. Now, this makes the CSR plastic credits as a digital asset so different. Because in most, let's say, crypto projects, the idea is that you buy something for $1 and then you sell it for me for $2. And then I try to find somebody to sell it for $3, whatever. In our case, the end user is actually permanently removing it from circulation. In other words, destroying it. How many other digital asset or crypto projects have you ever even heard of where the end user would actually spend it and permanently remove it from circulation? We are such a unique in this way. And what will be the result when this is done, in combination with the fact that there is real physical work behind every single token, and the end user is now removing those credits, those tokens out from circulation, which are already limited. What's going to happen? With additional demand coming onto the market, either because of voluntary actions or mandatory actions, companies all over the world are now becoming legally obligated to offset their plastic footprints. And when they are buying these credits and removing them, it is now reducing and limiting the circulation of that specific CSR plastic credit. With additional demand and limited reducing supply, there's only one thing that's going to happen as a result of that. And that's obviously what's going to create additional value for all the holders of the CSR plastic credits. Something like this has never been done before. Not in the field of plastic credits, not in the field of digital assets. And I understand that for traditional crypto guys, they have to adjust their thinking because something like this is very, very unique. But our target as a company is not to be in the crypto space. We don't see ourselves as participants on that. We don't operate on that field. We operate on the field of plastic and environmental offset credits, which is where every single regulation around the world is heading. But the combination that we are able to bring by bringing an environmental industrial solution for one of the largest problems and environmental issues that we are facing in the history of humanity, combining that with the latest available technologies that provide this public transparency and real-time documentation, combining that with all of these regulations that are now coming, which will enforce the plastic manufacturers and the companies that are actually using plastic in their packaging to be part of this value chain. And finally, in our case, bringing it all together into the power of the people. And with that community that we are now building, which now today includes more than 1.4 million registered members around the world, we have an amazing opportunity. From the marketing, from the network point of view, there has never ever been a network marketing or direct sales company that has such an emotionally driven product or service. Because when you speak to anybody and you tell them what we're doing, even if they become a client or not, everybody will agree that yes, this is important to do. Somebody should solve this issue. Well, my message to you is that what are you going to do? Who should do it? You should do it. We all should do it. And when we are all participating into this new economy, where a revolution in human history, where this discarded garbage is now becoming literally worth money, from garbage into gold, you have the opportunity to be part of this revolution. And you have the opportunity to contribute into cleaning this planet from this pollution, but also earning attractive income from the comfort of your home by joining our business opportunity. You know this as well as I do. There is nothing like this that has ever done, period. We are combining these strong elements in a way that wasn't considered possible still a few years ago. And especially everybody who was considered some kind of an expert strongly advised us not to do it, which today, looking back, sounds quite funny. But that was the world. It's always considered impossible until it's done.
And we're doing it, and we're doing it with such panache, with such a grandiose excellence, and this ability to prove so many experts wrong that it's literally jubilatory. It's like such a joy to be part of a venture where we're reconciling purpose and profit. That's unique. And this is what I strive to explain to people, having been in the field of environmental recycling or valuation for 20 years. I started in that before CSR was even a coined term, or maybe it was just beginning, before carbon credits were common. This is when I started in this, back in 2006, after having been in finance. So I'm seeing this project as the unicorn that it is. And everyone from the different industries who's an expert now, 5 years after, can say, well, yeah, I think these guys are doing something maybe that we should be looking at because it is working.
Exactly.
Yet, we still have some people who doubt. One more doubt that comes into people's minds, and you certainly, of course, have addressed it many times already, is the Ponzi scheme. People say, well, okay, yeah, sure, maybe what you're saying will work someday, but right now, it's a Ponzi scheme. Why? Tell us why people might still be able to think that this could be a Ponzi scheme. Why?
Well, anything connected with network marketing, direct sales will obviously always have that stigma attached to them. Unfortunately, in the industry and the field of direct sales, there's been a lot of bad actors in the last years, and obviously people have also had bad experiences with these companies. That still doesn't mean that the delivery method wouldn't work if done in a proper way. And what we are able to do is we're able to bring all these things together, as we spoke, in the industrial operations, the transparency with technology, and eventually, in my opinion, the most effective distribution model of our service. Now, where things are heading and the way that things have been designed and what we can expect from the next coming months and years is actions expanding, new factories being developed, different parts of the world, more collaborations with institutions. As you earlier mentioned, now we are already recognized at the United Nations. We work with our offtake partners in the petrochemical industry, companies like Shell. We have $1 billion companies like Diversey, that is a global supplier of hygiene and cleaning products to most of the luxury hotels around the world. They are now engaging with us and coming and taking part while it's still all voluntary. So when you think about companies like Shell or other oil and gas petrochemical companies, before they engage into any collaboration with a company like Corsair, especially before they agree to publish a joint press release of officially formalizing in public this collaboration that we have, we as a supplier, we as a small company, have to go through nearly 2 years of due diligence. So, not to use them in this case as a sort of a sign of approval or seal of approval, but it should mean quite a lot. Because do you think like a company like that, if they, after 2 years of due diligence, after even requiring that before we were allowed to talk about our collaboration, they wanted to see 1 year of successful oil deliveries from our factory to their facility before we were allowed to publicly mention about our relationship. Do you think that they would publicly want to associate themselves with Corsair if they had any doubts of any kind of a wrongdoing within our practices? So think about that, the first thing, all right? The second part, which again, of course, relates to the sometimes negative image of direct sales and network marketing, is acceptable. Our mission is to try to improve that image. Our mission is to try to use that as a power for good. Bring people together with the shared mission and focus on doing the right things. And hopefully, little by little by little, we'll be able to positively impact the entire industry and improve the name of network marketing on a global scale. Now, when we come back to the tokenomics, and you mentioned this earlier regarding our buyback program, this is also something very important to mention and to explain. Because as you rightfully said, with every single time when Corsair creates oil from plastic waste and we sell that to our clients, or even in locations like in Europe now, we are actually getting paid to receive the plastic waste. 10% of all of that income from that revenue is channeled by Corsair as a company into our CSR buyback program. This buyback program means that we take money from that oil sales and the so-called gate fees that we receive from accepting this plastic, and we use that money to buy CSR plastic credits from the open markets, which we then place into permanently into our treasury wallet. This means that it is not only this demand that is generated by companies and private individuals that either voluntarily or mandated by incoming global regulations are using these credits and then retiring them, removing them from the circulation. It's also with every single liter of oil that is produced by Corsair, and with every single kilo of plastic that we receive in places like Europe, that will now contribute more demand into the market for those credits. And our target is to expand our production globally with more factories, more machines, more collaborations, and eventually get to a milestone target where we as a company are generating over 1 billion liters of pyrolysis oil annually. With this 1 billion liters in production, we would be looking at somewhere between 1 to 1.5 billion euros in revenue, out of which, in this case, 10% would be channeled into the buyback program. Every year, every month, every week, buying back those credits at any available rate. We don't care what anybody wants to sell them for. Sell them for high, sell them for low, we don't care. We're buying every week. And with every single purchase, the circulation of that specific plastic credit, be it the original CSR or CSR 25 or CSR 26, will now become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And again, we don't care about the price. We keep on buying. As a result of this, looking at this again from the digital asset point of view, not only is there a unique element of real physical work behind every token, not only is there an end user that is actually looking to permanently remove this credit from the circulation. On top of that, there is additional revenue that's coming outside the network marketing organization, completely unrelated to it. Companies, brands that are buying these credits voluntarily or regulated by law have nothing to do with the funds generated with the network. the revenue generated from the sales of our pyrolysis oil is generated completely separately from anything that is done within the network. So coming back to your question, how do you know this is a Ponzi scheme? Well, if you think about what that actually means, and now you listen and you look at what we're doing, the answer is very clear. Our operation is based on real, physical, industrial operations used and supported by some of the largest institutions, organizations, and companies around the world. And with every single action that we do, we're generating value outside from the network.
It's very straightforward, it's obvious, and for whoever has eyes to see and ears to hear, this cannot be anything else than an extremely valid and profitable and purposeful venture to get involved in. Whoever still doubts the validity of this business model has not really looked at it, because the moment we start looking at it, there is no other word that can come to our mouth than the genius. This is a genius coup. This is literally hacking the system from within, taking advantage of the technology, the best that's available, taking advantage of the regulation, because that's what enabled this business model to be profitable, taking advantage of people's emotional attachment to wanting to be part of the solution, and taking advantage of literally the tremendous market.
Exactly.
The biggest market in the world. The market that will never, unfortunately, be finished. Because even if Corsair reaches its target, which is to produce 1 billion liters per year by 2030, which I hope we will actually move beyond, because
absolutely we will.
There is
that's just the first milestone.
Right, that's like a conservative target. It will unfortunately cover only 1% of the global need.
Yes.
Or at least, actually even less, because we expect plastic waste, plastic pollution, plastic production, and therefore plastic waste pollution to actually triple by 2050.
Exactly.
So we are looking at the most important, the most valuable, the most accessible, and I would say the most vital opportunity for humanity. And whoever does not realize that we're not here really for the money, we're here for the opportunity.
That's it.
The opportunity to create value. Not to just transfer value like a ridiculous Ponzi scheme. We've known each other for a few months now, the first time I've been in touch with you, but I've been actually rejecting business for the past 5 years, since COVID. I've been rejecting business. I did not want to be part of the problem, the pollution, all this rat race. And now I'm talking only about money. I'm talking only about crypto. I'm talking only about profits. Why? Because I understand that this is what most people are concerned with. This is why most people are getting a job. Most people are starting a business. Most people are getting into MLM, entrepreneurship, whatever. Most people get into that for the bottom line. But there is a triple bottom line. There is someone actually I'm very keen on, it's nice that it's coming up like this. I'm very keen on mentioning him. His name is Robert Rubinstein. He's someone who's been into what he calls the TBLI, the triple bottom line investing, for maybe 30 years or more. He's a pioneer of the field. I told him about what we do, and he was very skeptical because it does not tick the different boxes. Oh, there is the MLM, there is the pyrolysis. Maybe the pyrolysis is dirty. It's actually, the way pyrolysis is done normally, it's polluting very often because of the emissions that go out.
Except in our case.
Except in our case.
Where we are complying with the strictest European Union environmental regulations.
What we're doing is so unique, and it's so ingrained actually with this integrity and this vision that is absolutely immaculate. coming back to what I was telling you, if it were for the money, me, I would not get involved with this. Not that I don't care about the money, but that's not enough. I'm too intelligent, and so are you, and so are we.
Yes.
This was not planned, but so are we. There you go. We are too intelligent. Humanity today must move beyond just the appearances, just the immediate profits. We have to move beyond. And this project allows us to make the bridge between the world of before, where the rat race was the norm, and the world of tomorrow, where we will be out of debt because thanks to our business model, we can depollute ourselves at all levels. Hence, depollute now slogan, which is that the depollution starts now. It starts here. It's mental depollution. It's emotional depollution. The fear of lacking, the fear of being scammed, the fear of I don't know, not having enough, of being in competition. Oh, I need to compete. There is no competition. The market is so huge. And also this depollution of our bodies, which now are unfortunately polluted with all these microplastics. And then the depollution of the planet from plastic waste. But really, this project is a personal depollution vessel for every individual to move beyond their current limiting beliefs, to move beyond their current fears, etc. So to Robert and all the people who have been involved with what we call triple bottom line investing, or ESG, or CSR, or whatever we want to call it, or sustainable development, we are setting a new standard for how to do business in the 21st century, heading into the 22nd. Corsair is nowhere to go away. Corsair is a vessel, it's a ship that anyone can take ownership in, and being heading towards a new age for humanity, where we literally exit from the pollution and become the solution. And you know, like for me, it's so obvious that I write it and I claim it everywhere. We have to be the solution to stop the pollution.
There you go.
It's our role to make it happen. It's our role. It's our generation. It's who we are now today, thanks to visionaries like you and experts like Wayne Dobson and Andre Dobbs and all the people, and Carrot, and all the people you have surrounded yourself with, so that the vision can be carried and we can literally change the world one depollution at a time. This is the time. This is our opportunity. The opportunity of a generation, ours. We are the missing link. We are the missing link. We need to recover this inner power, to have faith and to act with courage, thanks to this incredible opportunity that was created by merging different industries and being on the right timing. What is your hope and your wish and vision for the network for the coming 2 years, knowing that starting in January, we're not on Plivo anymore, we become Corsair Connect to reconnect with the planet?
Well, first of all, I think that this alignment of brands was very, very important, and this was the right time to do so. We're all part of the Corsair community, and obviously Corsair is a brand that we created in 2020, and now we can have everybody working within that same brand and that same name. That being said, we expect a fantastic year of 2026. We've had a great 2025. We're just continuing to grow. We're continuing to attract great like-minded people from around the world. And truly, it's just about us together sharing our mission, sharing our message, telling people what we do, and by doing that, building the impact globally that we have on the environment. With the work that we're doing, this expansion that we're talking about is now a reality. It's no longer just a plan or a hope. It's a reality. There is nothing that's going to stop us from reaching our targets right now. We're only becoming stronger. And with every single new customer or every single new member of the Corsair Connect and Corsair community, we're becoming stronger. We're becoming faster, becoming more effective, and we're going to have a bigger impact on the environment and on the lives of the people that rely on our support. So with these actions, we are all part of this solution. From the business point of view, I believe that we are going to have our greatest year in 2026 with all of the developments that we've done, rebranding being one of those things, with the new developments, us now engaging ourselves by becoming partners in our own bank, being Corsair Pay, with improvements to our compensation plan, to the back office, all those pieces of the puzzle that needs to be in place for us to be ready for that next level of growth is now implemented. And within the beginning of 2026, all that work is completed. There is really nothing more that anybody could say or ask or wait for. Many times, especially in the network marketing industry, you hear people say, oh, okay, when that happens, then I'm going to engage. Or when that happens, then it's going to. Well, it's all done. It's all there. There is nothing that you have to wait to happen in order to be part of this movement or to engage with it. And like I keep saying, even with all of these pieces in place, we're just getting started. And on the 4th of January, when is our global call for the launch of the Corsair Connect and the launch of CSR26, that again sets a complete new environment on how we operate. Because when we think about now moving into 2026 and what we can expect to happen over there, it's all in place. There's nothing more for somebody to wait in order to get engaged with. That's, I think the biggest message that I could send for the network. If you haven't engaged already, now is the time. Best part is that we're just getting started, even with all of these things in place. And obviously, I wish to welcome every individual, every company, every institution, every organization to be part of this cleanup process, because we are here to clean up this planet from this plastic pollution. And there's nothing that's going to stop us. And we're going to keep on moving forward, becoming stronger, faster, better. And most importantly, we're doing it together as a like-minded community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's been a real honor. Thanks everyone who's been watching this podcast or listening to it. We are just getting started, and this is the opportunity of a lifetime for humanity to get back to our true value, our true nature, our true abundance, which has been stolen to us by pollution, and that we are here to reclaim no matter what happens. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you.